and there's so much pride, so much honor at stake, and King's Pawn has been played, and Nodirbek playing the Sicilian, a very committal opening, and he's going for the, is it called the hyper accelerated or the accelerated?
Accelerated Dragon, this is one of the coolest names for any opening, the Dragon opening. We all want to play a bit of Dragon chess, and we see Duda playing quite a positional setup. Duda's setup is called the Maroczy bind. White's pawns are trying to dominate the center of the board, and this is named after the player Maroczy. And you can both inferior, they're both playing their moves quite quickly and developing their pieces. White has that space advantage, but black has a solid setup with potential to break out. The heart rates, these two are it's a different heart rate game, isn't it, compared to the last one. They're keeping their emotions well under control here, but so far, pretty normal start to the game.
Yeah, so far, this is all in the realms of positional chess. White is going to be all about controlling those squares there in the middle of the board, preventing black from challenging the stronghold in the center with his own pawns. And if he manages that, he'll have a very good position. And so there we see Nodirbek. He's getting ready just to break through there on the left side of the board. And Duda is going to just focus on maintaining that space advantage, because if he loses control, the game can suddenly turn into black's favor.
And Duda still needs to get his king castled. He's got to move his bishop and get his king to the right-hand side. But if he can stop any black breaks, then he should maintain an advantage because of that extra space he has. White's got more pawns advanced than black. With Nodirbek's last move, he's trying to break on the queen side with a pawn, but I don't think that quite works yet. So the challenge here for black is to find a way to get counterplay so you don't get suffocated. If you play too passively here as black, you can get, your oxygen can get drained out of the position, and you will just get slowly ground down. So there is a danger, more of a danger for black in this position. And
there we see Nodirbek getting ready for this potential opening by moving the rook. Now Nodirbek will have to be like that snake and bide his time. And Duda just developing the light square bishop. Now there's one thing to note about this light square bishop. It is the worst piece on the board. It's completely jammed up by its own pawns. And an interesting move there from Duda, offering a trade of queens. And it's decision time for Nodirbek. Does he go into an endgame where the chances of a breakout are going to be reduced? Or should he keep the queens on the board?
I think he's an active player, Nodirbek, and he'd want to keep the queens on the board. Exchanging queens just means he'll be a little bit worse, so he does keep the queens on the board. His queen infiltrates there, but he's still lacking that break, and now Duda finally gets castled. How does black break this bind here? White can use his knight to pressurize the bishop next, maybe move his pawn forwards, and I'm a little bit biased here because I always prefer playing with more space. It's a bit easier to play the position with more space.
Yeah, I was going to say this is a critical idea in this type of opening. You have to activate your knight, you have to move it in towards the center, and often you don't really care about your light square bishop because it's a bad piece anyhow. And one thing that is concerning though is that Nodirbek not so much time on the clock, just 1 minute and 10 seconds.
He's probably got the best heart rate of everyone we've seen so far, Nodirbek, and he's moving that knight around now. So Duda's just got to try to work out a way to maybe try and keep his two bishops, stop any breaks. And this is still pretty standard stuff here. I actually think that black queen infiltration that Nodirbek played was very clever there, because it's quite annoying, that black queen. So it seems like black has made some decent progress, even though the evaluation bar is well up in Jan-Krzysztof's favor.
I'm just laughing because I love the way that Duda just moved his knight. He did it so calmly and it did it so slowly. It felt like a classical game, not the Armageddon.
He's very chilled.
Series.
The dude is abiding so far. He's playing very relaxed style, isn't he? Let's have a look at his next move. Is he going to hop around like he's going to have a nice cup of tea maybe and relax a little bit, or is he going to start playing with a bit more pace? This is blitz chess after all. You've got to show a bit of determination, a bit of grit And let's see, is it going to be a hopper or is it going to be more of a panic? He looked at his clock there, so he's realizing he's got to move soon. He's
it's
still
decision time, and I was gonna say, is he gonna push forward the f-pawn, start to unsettle Nodirbek? Nodirbek, he's confident, and one of his trademark things is that he is fearless. And well, Duda actually moving his queen. Sorry, Nodirbek moving his queen into the position. I don't know what happened to me there. I got flustered there by the lack of...
And the knight comes out here, and this is a very... Look at the black queen. The black queen's going a little journey all around the board here. It's getting bored of the queen side, and it's going to the king side now. And Nodirbek now does swap off the bishop, so he does get the advantage of the two bishops. He moves that queen in very quickly, and it's a really interesting position still. Is it time for Duda to break with f5? That's the move I play. Get the attack going. He does. He's building up an attack here, attacking the bishop. The pace is getting quicker.
Yeah, and there's a big threat on the board of white actually pushing the f-pawn one square forward. And oh, well, there is Nodirbek there with the black pieces moving the bishop to the center, threatening to pounce on that pawn on h2. And that's why Jan-Krzysztof just offers a trade of bishops.
And the animation bar is liking that extra space that Jan-Krzysztof has. He's still playing very coolly for a man who's only got 37 seconds left. The guy is so chilled out. I don't think he's going to be so chilled soon. You're going to see Nodirbek is playing with more emotion there, visibly getting into the vibe, and more pieces getting exchanged off here. But that white knight is very strong, and I still like the pawn structure. Great move there. It looks like black's king is under a lot of pressure now.
Yeah, totally. And how is Nodirbek going to hold off those two white rooks? Is he going to step forward with the pawn, but at the cost of perhaps isolating that queen there on the right side of the board?
Got 12 seconds. Got to move.
He just solidifies his pawn structure, but take a look at the black queen. She is out on a limb there.
And the other problem with this move is the white knight is now cemented in the middle of the board. That white knight can only be exchanged, but that won't be good. And Duda gaining more space on the queen side. Duda doing very well here, but they've now down to no time, so it's getting more and more random. And you can see black Nodirbek is trying to just play a defensive setup, but he's gonna have to, it's gonna be hard to maintain this defense.
It is gonna be hard, and I think Duda missed a chance to win a pawn there, but okay. They see Duda there just advance all his pieces there on the king side. Now there's a trade. Duda is doing very well, but 7 seconds on the clock, and he has to find targets.
He's
and
won a
now
pawn
he's won
in
a
the
pawn
middle.
in the middle.
That was a big pawn he won, because you can't take the queen, because that pawn is what is called a pin. You can't take the queen because you can't move into check. And Duda is completely in control at the moment. He's got an extra pawn and the attack. His king is safer here as well, Ivanka.
Yeah, and the only thing he doesn't have is he doesn't have more time, just down to 6 seconds. And if Nodirbek can break out, and he has, then still anything can happen.
3, 2. Just keep an eye on that clock. They've got only moments to play the rest of the game, and Nodirbek is fighting so hard here in a position which is probably losing, but he's playing everything. He's doing everything he can here, but his king is now very exposed here. That black king in check, and he moves his king back, but I don't know if it can survive for long here.
No, it won't survive for long. And now the through queen is threatening to come in to g8 to give checkmate, and Duda now introducing the rook into the attack. Only 5 seconds. That is
so
a nice
cool
square for the rook. Is he okay? Can he just trade off queens and start pushing those pawns? Go actually pawn hunting, and he does. And now the pawns, they are just going to start rolling up the board. You can overprotect them and then push the c pawn.
Yeah, it's 2 extra pawns for Duda, and that should be enough. Look at those pawns. They're just rolling down the board, and you can see Nodirbek playing with 1 second on his clock, but there's no stopping those pawns. They will become a queen, and Duda will win this first game.
Yeah. And Nodirbek trying to set some traps, but that's not going to be sufficient.
What's he going to play?
Yeah, and the heart rates have steadied. Nodirbek gonna open with the king's pawn And Duda, well, he just needs a draw, so he goes for the most solid reply to this opening. He plays a Petrov, and Nodirbek says, okay, fine, if you want to play solidly, I'm going to say no, but I'm going to play this little crafty move. And this move has been quite trendy on online chess.
Yeah, it's a useful move to play, and it's kind of just a wait and see tactic. Will Black try to move in the center or not? And instead, Duda develops his pieces, and White is doing the same here. And this exchange is quite committal from Duda, actually, because now White gets those two bishops, and those two bishops can be very, very useful later on. But saying that, it's a very solid structure that Jan-Krzysztof has got, only needing a draw. He doesn't need to play anything too risky in this game. He's just got to keep control, but early days at the moment.
Yeah, and there we see both sides getting their king to safety. And now the question for Duda is, what should he do? Should he reroute the knights towards the right side of the board? And he goes for a nice, luxurious move of giving some space for the king.
Yeah, so we're into the middle game now, and with that last move, White trying to gain space on the queen side, the left-hand side, but Black saying no, you're not going to gain space over there. And because those White has those bishops, he'd love to open up lines, but it's very blocked, this position, and that may well favor the knights. And Duda has more knights than Nodirbek does. So I think Black is absolutely fine at the moment. How is White going to generate some action in this position? That's what he needs to do. He needs to generate some attack, try to complicate the position.
Are you tempted by the move that I'm thinking of, which is just to get crazy with the pawns?
Why not? Get jiggy with it.
But no need for any wild craziness just yet. Instead, Nodirbek decides just to connect the rooks and build it. He can have the idea later up his sleeve.
And that knight maneuver looks like a sensible choice. It's coming around to the king's side, and that's what I was saying about the knights having more potential to move. In a closed position, they can jump around in and out of the pawns, and the bishops can't, especially White's light square bishop. It looks like a big pawn at the moment. The White light square bishop, it's blocked in by its own pawn, so this is why Duda is in no trouble as of yet. This last move, I think White might be trying to give a square for his knight, and then he wants to maybe push a pawn. He's got to find a way to complicate. Duda, so calm. He's just doing the right thing, improving his pieces and waiting for Nodirbek to make a committal choice.
Yeah, and well, there we see just Duda thinking about how he can improve his position, and he decides just to develop the light squared bishop. This is a nice technique actually from Duda, just reinforcing the V shape of that of those pawns there, and also getting the bishop to the long diagonal. But Nodirbek has to actually go for something, and he does move the knight backwards. So maybe it's going to be an F pawn that opens up the position, or maybe still we're in for more wait and see.
In these type of positions, it will generally change when a pawn break is made. So what they're doing is just trying to get their pieces to the best squares and giving themselves potential to break with a pawn. But where is that pawn break going to come from? Well, we see now Nodirbek is preparing that F pawn to go forwards 2 squares with that last move. He's guarding the F4 square, so he's got aggressive intentions with this. I think he's done a great job of finding a decent plan here, Ivanka.
Yeah, and I really like the strategy that Nodirbek is employing. You know, he's going to wait and wait and wait with his breakthrough until Duda's got no time on the clock and can't handle the ensuing complications. It's a risky strategy, but it's very high reward.
And you can see they're a little sort of moving in the chair, body language there. Duda says he's a bit unhappy, and there it goes again with the way this is going. He sees that White has a break, and he now moves his other knight backwards. I'm not sure. That seems a little bit odd to me. He's playing very passively here. The danger is when you only need a draw, you start playing a bit too passively, and now Nodirbek is just improving his pieces before making that pawn break. But you've got to play that pawn break at some point. You can't play passively for too long. You need to win this game. Just play the pawn break, man. Throw it on the board. Stop, come on. I want to see that F-pawn going forwards. It might, just my own entertainment. I want to see it.
It might be black that actually breaks forward with that pawn. And there's Nodirbek just waiting again with the rook. He's a perfectionist, right? He wants to make sure that it's all
but now
perfect.
He's not going to get the chance,
No.
He might have missed his opportunity there because it's Duda who breaks Jovanka.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't wait forever in life. You've got to do something.
There's life advice there from Simon.
Yep, got loads of them. If you ever want them, Jovanka, over here. Hi.
I'm all down for them. And now Nodirbek has to do something. So, okay, we see a trade of bishops, and he's now stepped forward with the queen. But the play is a little bit mysterious. It's not necessarily easy to see how Nodirbek is going to attack. Maybe he's going to step backwards with his bishop, and then challenge.
Here it comes.
Here it comes.
It's better late than never, they say. But I mean, he's got the break on the board. But the problem is, it might not be as effective here because Black has got a good situation in the center now. He may even close it down here by pushing his pawn forwards. He may, let's see what he's going to do, bring his rook in the game. He does just close it down. I like this move, Jovanka, because again, you got the two knights, keep the position locked. Like, don't need to open it up, do you? And he's just locking those pawns down here.
And now he's doing great stuff, just harmonizing the pieces, making sure everything is protected. And, well, talking about time, it is Abdusattorov who is 20 seconds down and ticking. And still, it's not easy to think of a clear plan of attack. Is he going to push forward with the G-pawn? And no, he steps back with the bishop. Does feel like Nodirbek is on the back foot, but he has the potential to move it forward.
And we see Jan-Krzysztof there attacking a pawn with his queen, and they're now going to have to pick up the pace here, and Nodirbek does with a quick move there, but this move is trying to undermine Black's pawns in the middle. The Black pawns are very strong. They're both now down to 15 seconds. We're going to see another crazy finish. Duda pushing his pawn right through the middle and taking a pawn there. It's getting complicated all of a sudden, but does that work?
Yeah.
The computer doesn't think it does. The valuation bar changing.
And Duda calculating quickly that you can just take the knight. The white queen is under fire as well. Oh, look at that. He promotes by taking the rook.
Oh, and he loses on time. Oh, dear.